Hey guys, I'm back. So I've been away for the last couple of days working on a bunch of projects. I just did a huge revamp on the site, which you can find on the link down below. I've been working on a few projects with Bounding in the Comics and a couple other outlets that I'm working with. Now, one of the big projects we've been working on is talking about this insane story with the fallout of Disney and their quote unquote non support of the opposition behind Florida's parental bill. Now, it's kind of insane that it's gotten to this point, so let me rewind you exactly how we got here. A few weeks ago, the state of Florida came out with a parental rights bill, which states that teachers, public school teachers, are no longer allowed to teach kindergartners through third graders sexual ideology and transgenderism. Well, Disney initially stated that, hey, we're just not going to make a public statement on this issue. It really doesn't have anything to do with us. We're not going to take a stand one way or another. We're going to remain completely neutral on this aspect. So since then, they have been staging protests. There's been accusations against Disney's parent company about them not being a quote unquote good ally to the LGBTQ community. And to show their solidarity with the LGBT community, all Disney properties today, which include Disney Plus, Marvel Studios, Hulu, ESPN, and many, many others, have come out to what it seems like in support of teaching kindergartners gender ideology and sexual orientation. Hours before their own employees staged a walkout in protest of the initial lack of support from Disney regarding Florida's parental rights and education bill, owned properties have come out today in uniform support of transgender athletes, transgender children, as well as the LGBT community at large. Now, I've been one person who's taken a lot of heat over the years from my coverage of Disney for this very exact reason, is that despite the complaints that Disney is not a good enough ally to the gay community, Disney has been one of the biggest mega corporations in the world pushing left-wing ideology in their films, television shows, even their sports networks. So Disney decided that they're going to show their solidarity by having all of their Twitter accounts post solidarity messages with the LGBT community. Let's start off with ESPN. Now, a lot of these are pretty much the same message over and over again, so we're just going to read a couple, and then you pretty much get the hint from there. But ESPN came out and said ESPN believes in inclusivity and denounces legislation and actions across the United States that infringe on human rights. We stand with our LGBTQAI plus, I don't even know what all of these mean at this point, colleagues, friends, families, and fans. We'll continue to partner with organizations that support LGBT communities to be held accountable where we fall short of expectations. And we will never stop telling stories about LGBTQ athletes like the ones that we're about to share in the thread upcoming. Now, this is where it starts getting interesting because right off the bat, you see here, one of the stories that they decided that they were going to share with the world, quote unquote, was a story about how transgender kids are being caught in the middle of this ongoing debate about sexual identity and politics and policy. And the story that they're trying to present to you here is that, well, here's a bunch of trans children athletes who are not being allowed to perform in the sport of their preferred gender. Now, keep in mind, we just talked about the transgender swimmer who decided to identify as a woman and then compete against women and pretty much dominate women's swimming. And if this continues, if we set this standard, this precedent of letting them continue to compete against women, women's sport as we know it is pretty much going to die. So we keep going, and then we see a lot of similar messages from other Disney properties such as Hulu. Today and every day, us hooligans are united against legislation that infringes upon basic human rights of the LGBTQ. Over down to Disney Plus, the other streaming service that Disney owns, and you see a lot more of the same. But Disney theme parks, just like all the other properties, are coming out with the exact same message. National Geographic. Remember National Geographic? They're also owned by Disney now, and they came out with the exact same statement that all the other ones have. Now, this one's going to sting a lot of you guys because some of you guys are addicted to Marvel superhero movies. But Marvel Studios, the ones responsible for the Avengers, Iron Man, Spider-Man, etc., came out with the exact same statement that all the other properties have. And then another little story related to this issue was that Pixar, once again, another company owned by Disney. Are you starting to see the problem here when I'm talking about monopolies with certain companies controlling everything that you watch on television and in movies? Maybe you guys are starting to understand now. But Pixar also came out last week and accused Disney of censoring overly gay affection scenes from Pixar films. Now keep in mind, Pixar movies are movies that are generally and primarily targeted towards children. Now, some of the list of demands that these Disney employees are coming out with include, but are not limited to, ceasing all political donations to politicians in the state of Florida who supported this bill, which basically means Republicans. To stop relocating employees from California to Florida. Now, that was a move that happened last year because as the state of California continued to shut down due to COVID, Florida stayed wide open. So Disney making a financial decision to go to a state that was open rather than deal with the state that was closed was good for them. But also keep in mind, the state of Florida was only open because of Republican politics, unlike the state of California. And they also want to stop all construction and investment in the state of Florida until this bill is dead. Governor Ron DeSantis has already stated that he plans on signing the bill and he will not bow to Disney in order to give in to their demands. And other states are looking to pass their own similar bills, whether it's preventing teachers from grooming kids or preventing transgender athletes from ruining women's sports. This is going to boil over to something pretty big. How far exactly this whole thing is going to go, I don't know, but let's just put it this way. If you want to protect your children one way or another on this issue, you're going to have to make a stand eventually. You can't take both sides. You're going to have to pick one way or another. And the progressive left has already made it perfectly clear that if you're not on their side, you're against them. You're the enemy.